We've all walked past a classic brick building and probably not given it a second thought. It just looks solid, like it's been there forever. But what if I told you there's a whole hidden world of engineering behind that familiar brick facade? Once you see what's really going on, you are never going to look at a brick wall the same way again.
Seriously, what if that wall isn't really holding the building up at all? What if those bricks are just hanging there, like a decorative skin wrapped around a much more complicated skeleton? Well, today, we're going to pull back that brick curtain and see what's really going on. And this, right here, this is the illusion. It looks strong, permanent, structural, right? But in almost all modern buildings, this beautiful brickwork is what's called a veneer. It's a clever, non-structural outer layer that's really just there for looks and to keep the rain out. The real heavy lifting, that's happening somewhere hidden deep inside. So let's build one. We're going to start from the very core, the hidden structure, and work our way out, layer by fascinating layer.
Everything's got to start somewhere. And for our wall system, it all begins with this, a solid concrete floor slab. This is the platform for everything that's about to come. All right, now comes the real muscle of the operation. It's this frame of steel studs that gets fastened right to the slab. This is the structural skeleton that's actually carrying the building's load, not the bricks you see on the outside.
And to give that skeleton a bit of skin, an exterior sheathing board is fastened to the studs. This makes the whole frame more rigid and, just as importantly, creates a nice smooth surface for all the weatherproofing layers that are coming next. Okay, pay close attention to this piece of steel right here. It's called a shelf angle, and it gets welded right to the edge of that concrete slab. Its job is unbelievably important. It's going to hold up the entire weight of all the bricks one floor at a time. Now look at these little guys. See all of those small metal pieces being attached to the studs? They might look pretty insignificant, but these are called brick ties. And they are, no joke, one of the most important safety features in this entire wall. So here's the deal. That big shelf angle we just saw, that supports the brick's weight so they don't fall down. But these little brick ties, they anchor the brick veneer back to the building's frame so it can't fall outward. They literally tie the brick skin back to the skeleton. Next up, a thick layer of spray foam insulation goes over the whole thing. This creates this perfect continuous barrier against air and moisture, protecting the structure and keeping the inside of the building nice and cozy. And see how the ties are just poking through? They're ready for the grand finale. And there it is, the whole system working together. The brick veneer is laid, with every single brick resting on that steel shelf angle for support from below. At the same time, those little brick ties get embedded in the mortar, locking the wall back to the frame. You just slap some gypsum board on the inside, and you've got yourself a modern wall. Okay, so that's how it's supposed to work, in a perfect world. But, construction in the real world, it's rarely perfect. So let's take a look at what happens when even tiny errors get introduced into this very precise system. So on the left, that's the blueprint, right? Everything perfectly aligned. But on the right, well, that's a pretty common reality on a construction site. The edge of the concrete slab is just a little bit out of place. This happens constantly. So is it a disaster? Nope, not at all. Good engineering always plans for this kind of stuff. The system is designed with what's called tolerance, and there's a really simple fix. You just insert a steel shim, a little wedge to fill the gap. That ensures the shelf angle and the rest of the wall get built exactly where they're supposed to be. Easy. So a misplaced slab, that's a totally manageable problem. But what if one of those small, vital components, one of those tiny metal anchors, what if it's just forgotten? What happens when a brick tie simply isn't there? This is what happens. Without the brick ties holding that veneer back to the building's frame, there's absolutely nothing to resist wind or any other forces pushing on it. The entire brick facade can literally just peel away from the structure and come crashing down. It's a total catastrophic failure, all caused by a missing part that costs a few cents. So that steel stud frame is super common, but it's not the only way to do it. Let's look at a much, much heavier alternative that, fascinatingly, still relies on the exact same principles. In some buildings, especially taller ones, the structural backup isn't a lightweight steel frame. It's a solid, reinforced concrete wall, often called a shear wall. I mean, you can just see it's a much more robust, heavy-duty structure. But, and this is the cool part,
even with this absolute beast of a concrete wall behind it. The principle for attaching the brick veneer is identical. You still need that shelf angle to hold the weight up, and you still need brick ties, this time anchored right into the concrete, to hold it back. And the final result is a facade that looks exactly the same from the outside, but is built on a totally different kind of structure. It just proves that no matter what the building's skeleton is made of, the physics of keeping a heavy brick veneer safely attached doesn't change. So, when you really break it all down, the modern brick wall is basically a four-part system. First, you've got your structural frame, steel or concrete. Then you've got your protective sheathing and insulation barrier. Third, you have that all-important shelf angle for support. And finally, you have the brick veneer, held safely in place by those tiny but mighty metal ties. The famous designer Charles Eames had this great quote: "The details are not the details, they make the design." And that has never been more true than right here. A little component like a brick tie isn't just a detail, it's the very thing that makes the entire design safe and functional. So, the next time you find yourself walking down the street, take a second and look, really look, at that brick building. Are you going to see just a wall? Or are you now going to see that invisible, intricate dance of frames, angles, and ties, all working together in perfect harmony to keep that beautiful facade right where it belongs?